The first time that I saw the Nissan Ariya was back in 2023 at the auto show. It was the Woody edition, which looks so funky. But this is my first hands-on experience with the Ariya. And in this video, I want to ask the question, is the Ariya an EV that you should consider? Pricing for the Ariya in Canada starts at around $56,000 versus down in the States, it starts at around $41,000. And that's before you look at any sort of federal, provincial, or state incentives that might be available. This is the Platinum trim level of the vehicle, so it's got the Platinum pack. In Canada, that equates to a car that's $72,000 plus tax. You're going to find the Ariya with front-wheel drive standard, and then there's the option of moving into an all-wheel drive system with all-wheel drive being standard in some trim levels. But honestly, I'm in Canada. You'd absolutely want to look at an all-wheel drive vehicle just because it's going to handle so much better in the wintertime. You're going to get better traction all around. And the Ariya does have a dedicated snow mode to help out with traction and stability control as well. You're going to find 19-inch wheels standard inside of the Ariya, with the option of bumping up to a 20-inch wheel in the States as its own individual package. But the 19-inch wheel, when you look at the overall drive quality, is incredible. The cabin is incredibly quiet inside of this ride. Japanese craftsmanship shows throughout the interior and exterior of the Ariya. Kamiko is a traditional Japanese woodworking design that's highlighted throughout the grille, while Nissan uses andon, or paper lantern lighting elements inside. And lit up at night, they look really sharp. There are also 3 unique spots you can find sakura, or cherry blossoms as well. And then there's quite a little bit of technology that you're going to find inside of the vehicle's standard. So regardless of the trim level, you're always going to have the front park sensing system. Then there's also the option for a front-facing camera, and that gives you a full 360 view, and it does look fairly sharp. And the sharpness carries through too, because you look at the front end and it's got tapered LED lamps, which look really solid lit up at night. And that goes along beautifully with that front Nissan badge that also has LEDs built in that pop really nicely at night as well. Underneath the hood of the Nissan Ariya, just on a regular prop bar, but there's also no usable frunk space whatsoever. The way that Nissan's designed this, they've got the motor fully visible here. There are 2 different power options inside of the Ariya, so it's either going to be a 66 kilowatt hour battery, or there's this 91 kilowatt hour instead. Power-wise is pretty different between them, and don't get me wrong, the 66 kilowatt version is pretty solid, but when you look at the 91 option, and what that equates to power-wise is 389 horsepower and 442 pound-feet of torque. Really powerful. So, I'm going to do a little 0 to 60 test here, but I want to make sure that I'm in sport mode, and that's going to give you the best possible performance that you're going to get inside of the ride. Going to do a little 0 to 60 or 100 kilometer an hour test in 3, 2, and... Okay, that's fairly impressive. Very nice. It's got some great pickup and go. If you don't care about that extra range or the extra power, you could look at just the 66 instead and save yourself some cash. And then under the hood here, there's not too much that you have to worry about. There's the little 12-volt battery there, and then you can also top up your fluids as necessary as well, and that's really all the maintenance you need to do. There's obviously checking the tires and brakes as well, but you're going to save a boatload of cash when you look at maintaining an electric over a regular internal combustion engine. The warranty inside of the Nissan world is pretty industry standard. So the basic is a 3-year, 36,000 miles, 60,000 kilometers. Powertrain gets bumped up to a 5-year, 60,000 mile, 100,000 kilometers. And then the battery electric components are covered for 8 years, 100,000 mile, 160,000 kilometers. But you just want to make sure you take care of your ride. You're going to be saving some cash in an electric anyways because you won't have to do as much maintenance, but you still will have to do a tiny little bit. Charging for the Ariya is done just along the passenger side. When the car's locked, the cover is also locked, and then you can also set whether or not the charge cable can be locked in as well. It's got support for level 1, level 2, and for level 3 DC supercharging, which is useful. And one really cool thing is that the Ariya does come with a 20-foot charge cable right from the factory. One even better thing is that that charge cable is both level 1 and level 2 compatible, which is amazing. It's very interesting the way that Nissan has done it though, because the end that you plug into the wall, a little bit on the beefy side. So it is really useful having the level 1, level 2 support. I think that the charge brick itself could maybe have or like the plug for the wall, redesigned a tiny little bit. It still is useful having that charge cable though. The overall charge times are going to depend on if you're in the 66 kilowatt or if you're in the 91, and then how you're charging. So at home, I don't have a level 2 charge station, so strictly that regular wall plug, which on a 91 kilowatt hour battery, you're like 90 plus hours at a 1 kilowatt draw. So it's going to take quite a little bit to actually charge this car up. But having said that, if you're only traveling 20, 30, 40 kilometers a day or 20, 30 miles a day, you'd be more than okay with just plugging in level 1 at home. If you're on the road, that's where charging anxiety comes in, or yeah, I would say charging anxiety, because it's not really range. It's just the idea of having to sit there for 5, 6, 7 plus hours in order to charge up. But that's where the DC supercharging comes in, because you can get from 0 to 80% or 10 to 80% in like 30 minutes. So just relax, have a break, go for a walk, whatever the case may be, stretch your legs out. Is it ideal? No. But the question you have to ask yourself is, how often do you normally go on road trips? Like for me, it's usually once a week or once every 2 weeks. So I haven't gotten an electric yet because of that. But I mean, at the same time, just being able to stop at a supercharger for a bit to get you a little bit closer could be worth it. And especially if, like I said, if you don't really travel much, you'd probably be okay with an electric just plugging it at home. Now, when you look at the overall range, that's going to depend on if you're in the 66 or the 91 kilowatt as well. So inside of the 66, the best range you're going to get is 348 kilometers. But inside of this 91, you're going to max out at 438 kilometers or 272 miles, which is pretty solid. And then the overall range you're going to get in the wintertime will be negatively affected a little bit. You're probably looking at losing about 20% of your overall range in the wintertime. And that's just got to do with how cold things can get. But if you're in the southern states, it doesn't matter anyways. The way that the Ariya rear end is designed, it's kind of eye-catching. Tiny little spoiler over top. You've got those LED lamps as well. It looks pretty neat. The glossy bumper in the back also adds a really nice touch. And then there's also a lot of tech you're going to find back here. So there's always going to be the reverse sensing system in that backup camera. And then you also have the option of towing inside of the Ariya. It's not much. You're maxing it at 1,500 pounds, but still, knowing that you can tow inside of this ride is pretty cool. Getting into the trunk can be done a few different ways. So you're at least looking at a manual liftgate. There's the option for a power liftgate as well. So you could open it up from the first row. There's a little button you can push there. There's also a button just underneath the second S in Nissan to the right side of the backup camera. You can use the key fob, and then there's also the option for foot-activated power liftgate. So as long as you've got the key fob on you, you're going to kick just under the rear bumper. Oh, I love that feature. So useful. Now, a downside though, based off of sensors, so if they're covered in snow, dirt, whatever the case may be, they might not work. But then you've got all those other options to get inside instead. Now, inside the back, there is a little cargo cover here. Very, very useful. Block all of your belongings in the back. There's only a little light off to the left side and off to the right, but there are some little storage cubbies along the sides on both the driver passenger side. Then there's the 2-tiered storage, so you can open them up individually, but you've got the charge cable, well, storage that I'm using for the charge cable right now. Then it's got that beefy brick that does have support for both level 1 and for level 2 as well, which I will give Nissan this. It is very useful having that support. And then a bit further back, there's also another thing that you can lift up, and that's going to show you the inflator kit. So you've got the actual air compressor and then the goop. So if you ever puncture a tire, depending on where it is, you could seal it up yourself. But being a Nissan owner, you do also have access to roadside assistance. So if you ever pop a tire, if you've locked yourself out, or let's say if the battery's died and you need a boost, that is available as an option. But I would like to see a mini spare. It's just that realistically, you could toss it in the back. You're just going to be adding some curb weight, which is going to negatively impact your overall economy inside of this ride. Folding down the second row seats can easily be done through the back here if you can reach. So along the top, you're just going to lift and push. You might have to fiddle with it a little bit depending on how tight that seatbelt is, but there's a good amount of space inside of this ride. And the cargo measurements that you're looking at, specifically behind the first row seats, are going from right where the liftgate would close to just in behind that armrest between the first row seats when it's moved forward as far as it can go. Because that console can also be slid backwards or forwards. So with it as far forward, good amount of space, and then you'd lose or gain a few extra inches depending on how far forward or backward those seats are. The second row seats don't fold completely flat, but if you have some heavy weight on there, you'll be able to weigh them down no problem. If you need to fold down the second row seats and you don't need to get into the trunk, it's straightforward. So you just grab that same lever along the top in order to be able to fold it down. This Ariya is in the two-tone paint, so deep ocean blue pearl and black. And I gotta say, those black highlights really look aggressive, and I love deep blue. I really like the overall color choice inside of this one. The one thing that I would do to make it look a little bit meaner, tint those windows to legal maximum. So that would make it look really nice. Getting inside of the vehicle is straightforward. So I'm 6 feet tall. And this is a little crossover, but still. Getting into the first row, easy enough. Second row, also very easy. And there are assist handles along both the first and the second row as well. As you back up, watch this. So the vehicle has an auto lock feature and an unlock as you walk towards it. Lit up at night, that unlock is solid. But the side view mirrors have turn signals. They have the camera there in some trims. They're power folding, and it's got the blind spot monitoring system. So if somebody enters the blind spot of the vehicle, that's going to highlight to let you know. On the door, there's also intelligent access. So you can push there as well to lock the door. Then you can also slide in behind in order to unlock. Get to the interior in a second there, but because this is the Platinum trim, it's got this interesting little suede liner along the door. There's driver's seat memory, and then your basics like your side view mirror controls, power fold them, window controls as well as a boatload of storage along the side that can fit a larger bottle. You might just be able to make it out, but in behind this interesting style, there are also LEDs. So there are LED highlights that are available. So ambient light, which looks pretty neat, lit up at night. There's a little E-Force. Almost feels like the Fantastic Four or the Fan 4 stick. But there are a few different seats that are available inside of the Ariya. This one, because this is the Platinum trim, heated and ventilated capabilities. And then basics like moving the seat forwards, backwards, up and down, adjusting the backrest, and four-way lumbar support. One neat thing about the Ariya is that you can adjust the height of the high beams, or the headlights, I should say. So if you're empty, you can be on 0, but if you're fully loaded inside the vehicle, 3, and that's going to adjust, lifting the lamps up or down. There's also the option for a steering assist that works with the adaptive cruise system. There's a head-up display option, and then basics like auto hold, so if you come to a stop, take your foot off the brake, the car's not going to move. You can turn your charging on off, and then open and close the liftgate. This trim level, so the Platinum, is going to be a power telescoping steering wheel. But for the most part, though, it's going to be just a manual adjust instead. Look at that little start up. A welcome animation is going to get this AC going. It is toasty today. All right, so while this is all loading up, space-wise inside of this car is actually pretty solid. So I've got the seat as far down as it's going to go. I've got, what's that, 2.5-ish inches of headspace. It's 2.5, maybe 3 inches of headspace there. So it's not bad. But I mean, if you're 6'3", 6'4", you'll probably comfortably be able to sit inside of this ride. Any taller, and it's going to be a teeny bit tight. But there's so much inside of this car, including, you see it here, this angle, little head-up display. And as you turn on different systems, that's going to engage. If you have a route going, that head-up display would also show the route, so your turn-by-turn directions there too. But there's so much, like there's so much with the cluster screen, with the infotainment system as well. The overall layout's going to be the same across the vehicle lineup. There's just going to be certain features that might be available in, or that won't be available in the lower trims. But if you want a full walkthrough, like you want to know how to use the steering wheel buttons, navigate through the cluster screen, or even the infotainment system, check down in the description of the video for a full walk around. But there's nothing too crazy. I like the adaptive cruise control system there. You're set in forget it cruise. You also have the option of toggling in to just a regular cruise control as well if you want to. The infotainment system inside of the vehicle is actually really nice. It's got factory navigation built in. There's wireless Apple CarPlay, wired Android Auto that are available as well. And then all of your different sources. So as always, you've got AM, FM, Sirius XM, USB if that was available. If your phone was hooked up, you'd be able to listen to audio that way, whether it's Bluetooth or Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. And I mentioned USB. The USB is kind of neat. So it's actually down here. There's a 12-volt power point there, and then 2 USB power points. So there's a USB, USB Type-C that are both data transfer as well, which is great. There are 2 different speaker choices that you're going to find inside of the Ariya. So it's either going to be a 6-speaker system standard in the lower trims, and then there's a 10-speaker Bose system inside of the higher trims of the vehicle. You get into the Platinum package, etc. Not gonna lie, the audio inside of the Platinum, really, really good. Like, hold on, I'm going to launch into a song here. So the audio that we're listening to is going to come just out of the microphone here. So there's no post-processing done whatsoever. So let's find a little song here. That was at half volume. All right, so I'm going to take another song, and we're going to go, let's go this one. Ooh, okay, so same idea, just out of the microphone here, and I'm only going up to half volume.
Succeed and then invest all of my time into that and proceed. I need whatever the hell can make me happy, and I don't think you have a clue what could that be. They tell me that I'm never gonna make it. They want me.
The audio inside of this car is so good. But like I said, this is the upgraded audio system, so that's why it sounds so good. But you can get equally as impressive audio in the lower trims. You just have to figure out how to adjust your audio properly. So in any car, you want to make sure that you adjust your treble, mid-range, and bass. And in this car specifically, I found the bass cranked a few points and the treble down is really, really solid. Like I said, if you want a full walkthrough, you'll find it down in the description. But like I said, there's factory navigation inside of this ride, series of different sources available. Sirius XM is there as an option. There are climate controls that are built right on the bottom here, but more advanced controls along the top as well. Really cool. There's the power button there, volume button as well. You can sync between stations, but this is so neat. Like, I wasn't sure what to think about it at first when I first started playing around with it, but being able to adjust your climate this way is kind of neat. Toggle the climate on or off there as well if you wanted to. Air circulation, and like I said, all of the advanced options, including, you get into your seats, heated and ventilated first row seats. And that's strictly going to be for the seats here. Like I said, heated, ventilated. Not going to be standard across the vehicle lineup, but it is really nice that that's available there as well. You can switch into the rear, so you can also toggle on the heated rear seats, and that's strictly for the outboard seats. So the middle seat would never be heated inside of the ride. But it's nice, and then as you pull down, there's also the electronic parking brake. The shifter inside of Nissan vehicles is interesting. So, I mean, it feels really good in the hand. It's a nice small profile as well, but shifting is kind of neat. So you push up to get into reverse, and you've got a full 360 camera with object detection there. So if there's somebody behind you or something behind you, the car can brake for you automatically. Shifting into neutral though, so it's a very subtle drop down in order to do it. Because if you're in reverse and then you pull down, it's going to drop you into drive. So there's this like little sweet spot. You have to stop in order to get to neutral. And then you can get into drive or your regenerative brake mode there instead, back into park. And then there's also the option for a few things. So this one is park assist. This car has park assist. It's got parallel and perpendicular parking. So it can help to back you into any space. It can also help out with parallel parking as well. And it is a very, very smart system too. But if you want to walk through on how the park assist system works, check down in the description of this video. There's also e-step. And E-step, I want you to think of that like a one-pedal drive. So you take your foot off the accelerator and the car slows down very, very rapidly. There's a series of adjustable drive modes as well, sport mode being my absolute favorite. There's also the eco mode and then the snow mode, which will play with traction and stability control. But you want the best possible performance, you're going sport, you're cruising on the highway, just into your eco mode instead. But when you're in sport mode, it's also going to use up more battery in comparison, or more the juice, I should say. Well, battery, same difference. There's also this. And at first it was like, what the heck is this? Watch this. So I've been using it to store dash cam while I'm shooting videos, but look at this. Slidable tray. So you've got, look at this, a full old table. So cool. It's honestly like, I wasn't sure about it at first, but it is so neat at the same time. Like, yeah, you've got your glove box there as well with a good amount of space. But having this additional one, because it's utilizing space that's not used right there, is so cool. And then another nice thing, there are these buttons along the outside here as well. In some trims, it's also power adjustable. So you can slide it forwards or backwards to really get that perfect armrest position for you. It is so neat. So neat. There's this little slider as well. A few little cup holders. I like the bronze highlight though, and that follows through as well. But lifting this up, wireless charge pad. So you can just slide your phone in there. And when you've got a phone on the charger, it's also going to highlight there to let you know. Got that same suede highlight there, the same bronze one down below. You can see that little light flicker. So that's a little LED light along the door there. And then even through the footwell there as well. So that's going to highlight now. You can't customize the color, but you can toggle it on or off through the cluster screen. There is an auto dimming rear view mirror that also features fully digital rear view as well, which is really cool. So if you wanted to adjust it, you can move it up and down, whatever the case may be. You can rotate it, you can change the language, switch to backlight and things like that. So cool. Because yeah, like seeing at the back through the regular rear view, it's not bad. Like it's a little bit of a small window back there. So Nissan was very forward thinking, introducing the option for a fully digital rear view instead. There's a sunglasses holder up overhead, which is standard. Basic controls for your cabin lights, which I think look kind of nice. There's an SOS or tow mode if you've got a garage door opener at home. And then there's a control for your shade for the sunroof. You can vent out, and then when you pull down, it drops down instead of going up and over. So single button press opens it up most of the way. Secondary button press is that last little bit. But because it drops down, that rubberized seal there, it's got you covered. And outside the profile looks great. And just button press to close. But I love that there's a full panoramic roof inside of the ride. And it's not just a fixed glass like other EVs. Vanity mirror, our visor I should say, has a vanity mirror with lights built in. There's a ticket receipt holder. And then this extends out. Oh yeah, look at that. Blocking all of the sun. That might be hitting your face. There's a little holy crap handle along both the driver and the passenger side as well. But the interior here, hold on, let's reset these back to my height. Perfect. And let's hop back to that second row. Oh, this is nice. I love that color though. So good. And along the inside, you can see it's that same highlight there, little door speaker, little forest badge, seat straightforward. Ooh. All right, so I've got the driver's seat set up for myself being 6 feet tall. And I've got a great amount of knee space, foot space, and head space. So it's a little tight, but still I can sit back here. Maybe about an inch of head space there as well, which is pretty good. Seats in the second row are also fairly comfortable too. Fitting 3 adults back here might get a little bit tight. Oh yeah, there we go, look at that. Oh, maybe. Oh yeah, okay, so middle seat I can just fit. But if we look there, it's nice because it's flat on the floor, so we don't have to worry about any sort of a hump. It'd be a little tight for people that are bigger than 6 feet in the middle seat though. Like a little bit tight, but if you need it, anchor points are there. Top tethers are in behind the seat as well. There are pockets behind both the passenger and the driver's side, and then some USB power points there as well as, look at this, buttons for the heated seats. So heated on the driver passenger side, middle seat, never going to be heated. And then a few USB power points there as well. So a USB Type-C. But you can control the seats, as I mentioned, through the infotainment system there as well. There are cup holders built in. Unfortunately, no easy way to get to it. So you just got to jam some fingers in there and pull. And you've got a few cup holders there. There's a holy crap handle along the passenger side with a hook and a light. And that's the same thing here. So a little handle, hook, and a light. Kind of cool. I love it. Like a little touch light there. I kind of like that. But other than that, yeah, it's simple back here. So the seat in the back here, it actually is surprisingly comfortable, but it's locked into place. There's no way that you're going to be able to adjust it, slide it forwards, backwards, whatever the case may be. But in the second row, I actually wouldn't mind going on distance trips. So on that note, I'm going to be driving, but let's take this thing out for a spin and have some fun with it. Power. That's good. Oh, that's good. Surprisingly good. And the speed up, and that's it. It's like 442 pound-feet of torque. Like, totally makes sense that you put your foot down and you're gonna fly. I will absolutely give the Ariya this. It is incredibly quiet inside of this cabin. Like, oddly quiet. Yeah, windows are all fully rolled up and you hear a little bit of road noise, but I am actually really surprised at how quiet the interior of this car is. Solid. So as I mentioned, you're going to find the Ariya available front wheel or all-wheel drive, and that equates to fairly responsive. This is the all-wheel drive version of the car, which is great. And let's do a little 180. Turning radius is not bad. And then the backup. So good. How do you complain there? The handling inside of the Ariya is surprisingly good, but it makes sense because it's a smaller vehicle, so it's got a smaller footprint, which means that if you need to get out of the way of something quickly, you need to, I don't know, deer jumps in front of you, whatever the case may be, the response is pretty solid inside of this ride. It's a fun drive all around, and it's got so many small features that just make it stand out from other cars that are in this class as well. So, is the Nissan Ariya worth a buy? It honestly depends on what you find important in your ride. Me personally, I wouldn't go for the Platinum trim. As much as I love all of the extra technology inside of the vehicle, honestly, I wouldn't go for a build this way. So the most expensive model, you could probably spend a couple extra bucks and look at the Mach-E GT, or you could bump yourself up to the Ioniq 5N to get better performance. But outside of that, a lower trimmed option could be right for the right buyer. I love how quiet the interior of the ride is. The overall handling is good, and I just really enjoyed the ride overall. But if you found this video useful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and until I see you next time, take care. You're going to find the